Hello, how are you guys doing today? This is Brayton, and today's video is going to be going over why most men, not all, should take finasteride, and most, 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, maybe something like dutasteride as well. But today's video is going to be basically more based on finasteride and the benefits it has, long term, and not just for the hair and, the prostate, but, other benefits it has, and, why, I personally think that it's good long term, and crushing DHT. DHT is not the most important hormone long term, I feel, for most people. So I think crushing it can be a good thing, and I think it is important to have something like a finasteride long term for just all around longevity and keeping your hair. So, anyways, we'll hop into today's video. So we typically know or pair the natural way with good, organic, beneficial. Which, yes, obviously, I think things when it comes to, your nutrition and your diet and environmental factors, things that are natural, are good. And I think I'm definitely gonna, represent things to be natural, of course, not everything's artificial, but it's not always the best way. For example, the reason why men go bald in the first place is natural, and, things like diseases and conditions are technically natural, and they happen through genetics and or other things that are brought down, and environmental factors. It's technically natural. So I mean, of course, something like finasteride, which I'm getting at here, is a drug, and it's not natural, but it has many benefits. Unlike there's definitely most drugs in general have side effects. A lot of side effects are crippling, and or can't compare with something else, and or this and that. While something like finasteride has quite a lot of evidence to show it doesn't really have crippling side effects and or side effects that may cause, altercations with other things like and or alcohol, stuff like that. It seems to be very beneficial. Of course, I'll get into some, the possible side effects and or, the, PFS, post-finasteride syndrome, causes, it may have, and or, we'll kind of deep dive into that later in today's video. But what I'm kind of getting at here is that we're going to start from the very beginning here, and what is even finasteride? Finasteride is a 5-alpha reductase inhibiting drug. So what is 5-alpha reductase? So we have androgens here, so things like testosterone here. We'll kind of slim it down on the most known androgen, which is, testosterone. Testosterone, through the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, which is, its enzyme here, 5-alpha reductase, transforms into dihydrotestosterone. So dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, is technically a byproduct of testosterone because only a certain amount will, convert into dihydrotestosterone. So, dihydrotestosterone in general is just by itself then, and it will bind to, your hair follicles and or tissues to exert gene expression. So, of course, genetics may vary on how dihydrotestosterone, what it does through that gene expression of, the androgen receptor that it has binded to. For example, if someone has no genes for androgenic alopecia and DHT binds to the androgen receptor, they're not going to have any miniaturization of the hair follicle, and or that's the same with the prostate and or other tissues as well. So that's just kind of like a preference on what dihydrotestosterone does. So testosterone in general, it transforms into dihydrotestosterone. So that is what the 5-alpha reductase enzyme does here. So there are 3 forms of 5-alpha reductase here. So the most prevalent is type 2, which is the type of form or isoformat of 5-alpha reductase that testosterone converts into dihydrotestosterone here through the canonical pathway here. And there is another pathway as well, the alternative pathway, but we'll really not worry about it too much. It's through kind of adrenals and other stuff. It's very low percentage of, certain hormones will transition into dihydrotestosterone that way. I think it's a very low percentage, so and we won't really get into that too much. But the canonical pathway is what we're going to be kind of talking about, mostly just because it's the highest percentage of DHT is formed from that pathway. So yeah. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at here is that DHT is nowhere near as beneficial as testosterone and or other androgens as well, and other hormones too. So dihydrotestosterone isn't really beneficial or really serves much of a purpose after adolescence or puberty. Typically something like in the, when you're being conceived and or through like, years of, growing into a preteen, teenage years, that's when dihydrotestosterone is more beneficial for, secondary male characteristics, things like beard or facial hair growth, body hair growth, penile development, as well as just like your sexual organs in general and, deepening of the voice and stuff like that. But in general, it just really kind of depends here, because of course someone could have a super deep voice and, have zero body hair. It doesn't mean, like, it just depends on their genetics when it comes to androgen sensitivity, to, dihydrotestosterone and testosterone in general here. So, when you crush, DHT after puberty, it doesn't seem to serve much of a purpose here, or DHT doesn't really serve much of a purpose. The only thing really shown is that maybe more facial hair growth, as well as just body hair growth, like back hair and stuff. Enlarging the prostate is a big one, especially if you're genetically prone to that. And heightened PSA levels, and then male pattern baldness. It's just kind of the only thing shown, and not really any benefits that it has after adolescence. Of course, I think it's important during adolescence, for just developing as a male, but testosterone in general will like keep your manhood into your adulthood. So testosterone is a very potent and diverse androgen that is very important, and is the manly hormone here. And dihydrotestosterone is just kind of like the cheap byproduct that just kind of like enlarges your prostate, grows maybe a little more facial hair, but obviously I think testosterone grows facial hair and body hair just fine. I think it's just been shown time and time again that testosterone just does better what DHT doesn't. So yeah, anyways, we'll kind of hop in more of finasteride here. So finasteride is typically prescribed for around 1 milligram daily, but it also can titrate up 5 milligrams, usually for like enlarged prostate through the Proscar tablet, you may know it as. But 1 milligram seems to be the standard for hair loss here, but it also can be titrated. It can be lowered to 7 or 0.7 or 0.5 here. So for people who may have like little side effects and or they can't tolerate finasteride very well at first, but in general it seems that they titrate up when they start to get used to less DHT in their system, really, because it kind of depends on your genetics here and or your body's used to balancing of hormones here, your endocrine system when it comes to testosterone regulation of estrogen, and the dihydrotestosterone. Because when you crush dihydrotestosterone with finasteride, you have a slight increase of testosterone and estrogen, just because you have more to go into other synthesis here. So yeah, obviously, so I think that's one of the first benefits. You're having more testosterone and more estrogen, and estrogen has a lot of great important benefits here. So what DHT does in the body when it binds to certain tissues, things like your skin, for example, it could cause acne. That's a big one. Hormonal acne can be caused by DHT. It seems that it can be caused by this thing called the DHT itch, or seborrheic dermatitis. I think I said that right. Is technically what the DHT itch is, and it's just from obviously the androgenic effect from dihydrotestosterone, because your skin and hair are like kind of the same thing here. They're both kind of dermatology. So DHT just kind of binds to the skin in general. It can cause even premature aging, especially long term, just because what DHT is doing, binding to the androgen receptor or binding to tissues, estrogen can't get to it then, because estrogen is very pro elasticity of the skin, very pro cardiovascular as well, neurologically too, and there's a bunch of different benefits estrogen has that we may not look into, also as well as libido too. Of course, you don't want to have too much estrogen here. That's why some people can get side effects from finasteride, like the sexual side effects, just because maybe at first they have too much aromatase, where it's too much testosterone going to estrogen, and this can be caused by many things, like your diet, exercising, you need to get your blood work done first, to assess if finasteride, what dose works the best for you. Because in general, if you take finasteride, your body will adjust very quickly, because that's just what the body does, and it just maintains your equilibrium. It's just what the body does. It wants to survive. So yes, it wants to maintain that balance and make sure things are healthy here. So of course, some people may have longer term side effects than others, but you need to talk to your doctor about your titrating the dose, and or doing different time periods of the week, maybe for the dosing. It just seems kind of in general that DHT isn't like, at the end of the day, bad for you, but it just seems to be kind of like, it's like at the trail end of like what the other hormones, do, your other androgens and estrogens can do to your tissues that do more for your body comparatively to dihydrotestosterone, which just doesn't do much after puberty. And, I feel like just getting rid of it, or most of it, not have to be all, is just more beneficial because you have more testosterone and estrogen that, testosterone has healing properties for, your bone and muscle, and it's anti-catabolic. And then you have estrogen, which, the other great things that it has, there's a whole list of things that different estradiol have. And, at the end of the day, I think getting rid of systemic DHT by, like the 70%-ish, or typically 50-70% DHT, and or, getting rid of your scalp DHT by 40%, also as keeping your hair, full and healthy. Really, it depends, though, on your genetics here. Some people are very aggressive hair loss, so sometimes finasteride, even that 40% isn't enough, and they maybe have to really push the treatment here. But at the end of the day, that's why I say something like a milligram of finasteride is, good for even the people who don't really even have hair loss. And, I think most people, or even people who don't really care about their hair in general, they just, slick bald, or they have a full head of hair. I think something like a milligram of finasteride, or even less than that, do maybe a couple days a week of 0.5 or 0.7. I think that's even like better for that. Now, for people who maybe have aggressive hair loss here and or want to get rid of more DHT in general, maybe for, if they have an enlarged prostate or heightened PSA levels, usually a drug known as dutasteride here is what is prescribed. Typically, I'm not going to recommend this much as finasteride just because dutasteride is more powerful and there's not as much long-term data of its safety, the amount of side effects it has, because dutasteride inhibits, I think, all three by a certain extent, maybe just the first two here, which usually the type 2 or type 1 and type 3 here can be found in like the skin and brain, so it can really depend here, because finasteride only inhibits the type 2, which is found, in the hair follicles and like the prostate, and some other tissues as well, while things like the type 1 and type 3 here can be found in places like the brain. It could be important for allopregnanolone synthesis, which is like a neurosteroid for the good mood and libido as well. So that's why I say something like dutasteride maybe not for everyone, and as of course you want to talk to your doctor about it, but dutasteride is definitely a stronger alternative than finasteride here at crushing the 5-alpha reductase enzyme here. So in general, dutasteride, I'll put up a graph here of typically like the different dosages and how it can systemically crush DHT by up to like 90% and scalp DHT up to 80% with like the 2.5 milligrams here. But of course, the normal dose, Avodart, which is like the brand name, which is like a 0.5 milligrams, it crushes systemic DHT, I think around 80 here, and, scalp DHT by like 50, 60-ish. Really depends on the person. This is usually what people go to if they're aggressive hair loss, if they have aggressive hair loss and like the genetics for it. Now, dutasteride in general, there have been some anecdotes and some people saying, hey, it clears up my acne pretty well. I personally take dutasteride and I notice a pretty big clearance. Of course, I still have pimples here and there because I don't have the perfect diet, so I mean I'll still get pimples on my back here and there, but at the end of the day, I think dutasteride has definitely cleared up a lot. I used to have a lot of acne, but ever since kind of more of, getting in the 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, especially something like dutasteride here, I've definitely noticed a clearance of acne a little bit. Of course, this is my anecdote. Don't take this seriously, but that's just something I wanted to throw in as well. But dutasteride seems to be at the 2.5 milligram dose is like one of the for the extreme aggressive hair loss people and or like people with like enlarged prostates. This is like the drug kind of go-to here. So definitely not the first hand what I'd recommend, but of course you want to talk to your doctor about dutasteride if you in America I think it's only prescribed for enlarged prostate, but like if you live in somewhere like Japan, yes, it can be prescribed for hair loss as well. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of cover that one as well. So now I would like kind of hop into side effects here. And so side effects are definitely a big controversy here when it comes to finasteride. There's a whole like organization, the post-finasteride syndrome, or PFS, which kind of exists. And, you know, people who say finasteride is poison and it's like the worst thing on earth and it will just kind of kill your manhood and all this will cause crippling side effects. You know, there's a whole list of side effects that people have anecdotally said and or documented. So in general, if you look kind of more into the clinical trials of finasteride and its side effects, it is very low. And of course there are people who have, you know, sexual side effects, which is the most prevalent side effect here. Like I said, it seems to go away with time and or with titrating dosing. So at the end of the day, there are a lot of people who are against finasteride here. And obviously it's been around for a long time. So there are going to be a lot of doctors who have looked into it, a lot of, you know, clinical trials into it. There's a lot of evidence and actual literature behind it. And at the end of the day, there's definitely a lot of people who think, you know, it's poisonous and this and that. But professional eyes, it seems to see it is a lot more psychological. And, it's controversial here. Yes, I kind of stand by that kind of too, because I kind of went through the same thing, you know. When I first started finasteride, I definitely had a lot of, like, you know, these so-called side effects, and it definitely kind of, I was like, it is what it is, but I just want to keep my hair. But, you know, I had these, like, crippling side effects because I knew, you know, there was just so many side effects that people were just ridiculed with, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to overcome them, and, you know, I just kind of fed into it. And, you know, it's mind over matter here. Your mind plays a lot of tricks on you. The nocebo effect and the placebo effect are very real. And, of course, I don't want to make, you know, take a light of this and say, like, you know, finasteride side effects don't exist, but a lot of it is psychological. And, you know, there are a lot of doctors who could agree with me with that statement as well. But at the end of the day, this is my opinion. Something like dutasteride, though, is a little different just because dutasteride inhibits more isoenzymes of, you know, the 5-alpha reductase activity. So, you know, things like the allopregnanolone synthesis and, you know, the different activity happens in the body. I can agree that, you know, something like dutasteride probably may have more side effects that can be more crippling. Personally, you know, I take dutasteride. I haven't really noticed any really side effects. Maybe like getting to sleep is a little harder, but not even. Maybe it's just my lifestyle. There are, you know, the things with the side effects that are, you know, contributed onto, you know, finasteride or, you know, dutasteride. They're like the most common side effects ever. You know, things like anxiety and depression are like the most common side effects of anything, you know, of any drug, any lifestyle. You know, it really could depend on anything here. It could be, you know, depend on someone's lifestyle, what they do, and, you know, their genetics are also can play into it as well. So we don't exactly really know here. That's why I say something like blood work is very important for, you know, before you start finasteride, and especially dutasteride, and speaking to your doctor, of course, and of course do your own research and, you know, educate yourself on this at the end of the day here. But really what I'm kind of told out here is that finasteride is really nothing to be scared of. And even if you do have a little side effects, you can always titrate dosing, and your body will adjust. And I feel like something like your hair, if your hair is really that important, definitely push the envelope here when it comes to, you know, your finasteride and dutasteride here. And, you know, it's a very low percentage of people who really get finasteride crippling side effects. And at the end of the day, I kind of got past it once I was like, this really kind of is all in my head. A lot of it really kind of went away, the fearmonger effect of, you know, the finasteride effect. Because, you know, when I first started finasteride, it was like the crippling side effects. And then even when I started dutasteride, I felt like still everything was amazing. So, you know, I feel like a lot of it can be psychological. And, you know, it really can depend, though. I'm not speaking for everyone here. So at the end of the day, I think not all men should take it. Obviously, I think a high percentage of men should be taking finasteride, even with or without hair loss or a large prostate. They should be using something like finasteride, and for, like, you know, the reasons I said in this video, I think it can be beneficial. And you know, DHT isn't really much needed after puberty. So, but some people can be different. Some people disagree with me and think dihydrotestosterone is important. But some people genetically may be different than others, but it just seems like in the literature that is kind of the truth there, that dihydrotestosterone isn't just really much needed. So, but yeah, anyways, that is kind of my video today, my stance kind of on it. And yeah, I think, you know, you should talk to your doctor about finasteride, or, you know, explain maybe your reasons And, yeah, that's what I recommend here. So, at the end of the day, you do you. So, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys want to add anything, feel free to comment down below. If I'm wrong about anything, feel free to add in the comments down below. And, hope you guys enjoyed. And leave a like, of course. It's appreciated. So, yeah. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. I think I said that like 4 times there, but yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye. Oh yeah, something I would like to add too, real quick, is I have a podcast episode with KWRX and Alessandro here. A great podcast that's just filled with information, and I had a great time with these guys. They are like top of the game here when it comes to hair loss information. They are like, it kind of feels like I'm with the big dogs here when it comes to like hair loss information. They are very knowledgeable and they have great channels, so please go check them out. I'll leave links down below, but check out the podcast episode. It's awesome and well done, and yeah, please give it a check out, because I enjoy doing it, and I think you guys would like it. Very packed with information. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that in there, so I'll leave the link for that. So bye.